Welcome everyone, we're going to be going through the best NBA player props on Prizepicks today. Now I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group, and as you guys see, we actually got 20 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. So we're on a huge hot streak, but if you want to get 20 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon, which should be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $774 just yesterday, and another member who won $840 for the 6th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description, so go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group, and I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. Alright, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So first pick we're talking about is Bobby Portis, and this one is actually for 11.5 rebounds, and this one is for less. Now look at Bobby Portis. We've actually seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games, and we do see them face off against none other than the Philadelphia 76ers. Now look at the 76ers. We see that they do actually rank 17th when it comes to rebounds allowed, so not the highest, but the reason why we do very much like the under for this situation for someone like Bobby Portis is that when it comes to Portis, we actually do see he plays a forward position, and Philly do a great job at restricting rebounds to the forward position as well. So we definitely see Bobby Portis struggling in this game. On top of that, yes, we have seen Bobby have some pretty decent games as of recent, getting 17 rebounds against Charlotte and 15 against Atlanta. We think those were a little bit of an outlier games due to certain injuries here and there. Now, Bobby Portis, I think his usage rate will come back down to normal. I think those games have pushed his line a little bit too high, that now there's a lot more value to go on the under, especially against a team like 76ers who do a great job restricting rebounds per position to the forward position, which is what Bobby Portis is. Now his average over the last 5 is 10.8, so significantly below his line as well. So that's another telltale sign to us that we are liking, or more liking, the under for this situation here. When we look at what the bookies are saying, the bookies also have been favored for the under as well, so that works out in our favor there. So all signs point towards the under for this one. So Bobby Portis for 11.5 rebounds for less, I think is a great pick. Now getting into the next one, we're going to be talking about Amen Thompson. So Amen Thompson, as we all know, fantastic player, and this one is a great one for actually points for 18.5, and this one actually is for less. Now we look at Amen Thompson. We've actually seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games, and they do face off against none other than the Toronto Raptors. Now we look at the Toronto Raptors, we see that they rank 25th when it comes to points allowed, but Amen Thompson plays a small forward position, and what we actually do see is that when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, they do a really good job at restricting points to the small forward position as well. Now, Amen Thompson is a small forward, tends to also play forward as well, and Toronto do a great job at restricting small forwards and forwards. But overall, I definitely see someone like Amen Thompson going on the under here, because as of lately, we definitely have seen his usage rate decrease. Amen Thompson's average over the last 5 games has been only 15.2, so significantly below this line. He did have an outlier game against New York Knicks. We think that has pushed this line a little bit too high, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under this one. So like I mentioned before, when it comes to these picks, when we look at what the bookies are saying, the bookies also have in favor for the under as well. That's another great sign for us there. But Amen Thompson, Toronto Raptors, both these teams are also pretty slow pace. Houston, on the other hand, are a little bit slower pace than Toronto, and what we are expecting from this game, we should see less volume than we usually see due to the slow pace nature of this game in that sense. So for that reason, we are sticking to the under for this one. So Amen Thompson, 18.5, 4 points for less, I think is a great pick. So getting to the next pick, we're going to be talking about none other than Cade Cunningham. So Cade Cunningham, this one's a great one for 28.5 points, and this one is for less. Now, when we look at someone like Cade Cunningham, we've actually see them face off against none other than the Charlotte Hornets. And when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets, what we actually do see is that the Charlotte Hornets rank 13th when it comes to points allowed. So although Charlotte don't have the greatest record, they do a really, or decent job at actually restricting points there. But the reason why we do like the under for this situation for someone like Cade Cunningham is that Cade tends to play the guard position, and because of, the Charlotte Hornets and their roster that they do have, they do a really good job at at restricting points to the guard's position, whether it's point guard or even shooting guard. Now, Cade Cunningham has only gone on the under in 1 out of the last 5 games, but a big reason why we do like the under for this situation here is that when it comes to Charlotte, what we tend to see with their defensive strategies is to really focus in on stars and restrict them as much as possible. So we are expecting a similar situation coming into this next one. For that reason, we do very much like the under for this one for someone like Cade Cunningham, who on top of that, yes, he's had a couple of outlier games, has brought this line a little bit too high, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under there. So for that reason, when we look at what the bookies are saying, the bookies also have in favor for the under as well. So all signs really do point towards the under for this one. And for that reason, Cade Cunningham, 28.5 points for less, I think is an absolute steal. So as you all know, I do want to get these picks out to you as soon as possible, but Prizepicks is delayed with some of their lines. So here are a couple of players you should definitely watch out for when their lines drop. So first player we're going to be talking about is none other than Alperen Sengun. And this one's a fantastic one because he's been averaging 19.2 points, 10.6 rebounds, 5 assists, while also shooting 49.1% from the field. So he's done a fantastic job for the Houston Rockets, and the Houston Rockets have themselves a great matchup against none other than the Toronto Raptors. Now we look at the Toronto Raptors, we do see a very interesting points, rebounds, and assists allowed because Toronto Raptors do rank 25th when it comes to points allowed. Moving on into assists allowed, we see that they rank 14th, and then rebounds allowed, they also rank 15th as well. So pretty mid to low tier in all 3 categories, and for that reason, we do very much like the over for this situation here for someone like Alperen Sengun. Sengun is not only just a fantastic player, but we definitely see him going on the over here due to the fact that he just does have such a high usage rate in all 3 departments. On top of that, when we also look at him, he does play the center position, and Toronto Raptors really struggle against the center position as well, allowing a lot of points, rebounds, and assists. Sengun is coming off some pretty big games over the last 4 or 5 games. We've seen him put on absolute shows. He's coming off a game where he had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. He most recently had another game of 24 points and 20 rebounds, and another game where he had 18 points and also 10 rebounds as well. So he's definitely lived up to the hype, and his usage rate continues to remain very high even in losses that they have experienced over the last couple of games. So because of that, I think Sengun as a whole should be able to go on the over on his lines pretty easily, especially against a team like this Toronto Raptors. So for that reason, we do very much like the over for this situation here. So keep an eye out for his line. If it is under his averages, definitely look to go on the over. So definitely see a lot of great value there. Again, to the next player, we're going to be talking about Damian Lillard. So Damian Lillard, great player from the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's done a fantastic job averaging 25 points, 4.7 rebounds, 7.5 assists, while also shooting 44.5% from the field. So he's done a fantastic job for none other than the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Bucks do have themselves a great matchup against none other than the Philadelphia 76ers. Now look at the 76ers, we see that they rank 15th when it comes to points allowed. Moving on into assists allowed, we see that they rank 24th, and then rebounds allowed, we see that they rank 17th. So interestingly there, they do rank pretty low and pretty mid-tier in all 3 categories, and we definitely see someone like Damian Lillard taking advantage of this and going on the over here. Now when it comes to someone like Damian Lillard, we actually do like the over for this situation, but I definitely would focus more on points and assists. A big reason for this is that when it comes to Damian Lillard, not only is he have a higher usage rate in both of those departments, but on top of that, when we look at Damian Lillard, he is a point guard, and actually 76ers do a really poor job at restricting points, assists, and rebounds to the actual point guard position. So there's definitely a lot of value there to see someone like Lillard go on the over. He does have a decent usage rate in all 3 departments, but like I mentioned, I think points and assists is definitely where you want to focus on. Now he's coming off some pretty big games. He most recently had a game where he had 29 points, 12 assists, and also 4 rebounds, which I think is fantastic. So we should see him put up a similar amount of numbers in this next matchup, especially when it comes to a matchup like 76ers, who haven't had the greatest season so far. 76ers have a record of 20-31, while the Bucks have a record of 27-23. So we definitely see these things being taken into consideration, and that's why we do very much like the over for this one. So keep an eye out for his line. I see a lot of value there to go on the over, specifically points and assists. But like I always mentioned, keep an eye out for the line first. If it is, under his averages, definitely look to go on the over, because I definitely see a lot of great value there. Now, getting to the next player, we're going to be talking about Isaiah Stewart. So when we look at Isaiah Stewart, we've actually seen him go pretty well for his Detroit Pistons team, averaging 5.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. So he's done a fantastic job for none other than the Detroit Pistons, and the Detroit Pistons do have themselves a great matchup against the Charlotte Hornets. So when we look at the Charlotte Hornets, we do see when it comes to points allowed, we see that they rank 13th. On top of that, moving on into assists allowed, we see that the Charlotte Hornets rank 13th as well. And then rebounds allowed, we also do see that the Charlotte Hornets rank 14th. So interestingly there, they do actually rank, pretty mid-tier, or a little bit somewhat higher tier, I would say, in certain categories. But I think overall more of a mid-tier for Charlotte. And because of that, a big reason why we do like the over for this one is that when it comes to the Detroit Pistons, we do very much like the over for someone like Isaiah Stewart, because he does play center for this team, and Charlotte Hornets do a really, really poor job, at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the center position. Now, Isaiah Stewart doesn't get that many stats. I think rebounds is definitely his highest sort of usage rate stat, and because of that, we do very much like the over for this situation here, for only specifically rebounding situation, and that's because of his usage rate being a little bit more reliant on those rebounds. So I definitely would focus a lot more on that. Hornets are also a really, really fast-paced team, which is great to see, because it does lead to a lot more volume for this game. For that reason, we do very much like the over for this situation here, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that. So Isaiah Stewart, keep an eye out for his line, especially the rebounds.